Hi, I'm Brandy Duskie, and this is EDL 854's Module 12 case study, The Budget Debacle. Let's look into some facts. So what has happened? We know that the Briardale Elementary is one of 6 elementary schools within the district, and that they're all served by some parent-run foundations. The foundations are independent of the school, but they raise funds for some supplementary curriculum programs, including art, music, and foreign language currently. And then they grant those monies to the school for that intended purpose. Briardale Elementary Parent Foundation this year has a new president who's personally motivated to raise additional funds for an innovative curriculum programs in addition to those existing programs. So he's looking to raise a significant amount of money. To raise that money, he decided to use a raffle for cash event. He had some experience with that in a fraternity, I believe, and raised over $100,000 at that time. So he is looking to raise a significant amount of money, and that was implemented. All the raffle tickets were successfully sold, and on the night of the drawing, the sheriff was tipped off by a community member with some insider info, and he arrested the foundation president. He was convicted of a misdemeanor and placed on probation for his role in the raffle for cash event. Where do we go from there? Looking at some legal and ethical issues. Was anybody harmed? Not physically, no, but yes, there are some harm to the situation. The personal reputations of the foundation president and the principal, who is me, as well as both organizations, the foundation and the Briardale Elementary School, are impacted. Community members who participated in the fundraiser, as well as those who are patrons of the school, are impacted, and then the school community that includes teachers and students that are placed at risk due to the potential impact on those supplemental programs. Does the situation contravene an existing law? It sure does. It isn't clear how much money was raised, but it was insinuated that it was a pretty large sum, and most states have laws that govern raffles with stipulations on the total amount raised, and as long as the raffle isn't considered illegal gambling, it can happen. However, the foundation, with a likely nonprofit status, didn't apply for that raffle license, and so there's evidence of potential misconduct with that, and then potential negligence on my part as well for not warning the president of the foundation of potential implications for not seeking those things out. There was not, however, a breach of contract. Looking at synthesizing in one sentence, so the Briardale Elementary Foundation, as a parent-run organization, utilized a raffle for cash fundraiser. However, the foundation president was convicted of a misdemeanor for his involvement, and Briardale Elementary was left with a budget debacle. Looking at the people involved, we know about Mr. Barely, who is the foundation president, and Mr. Santos, me, the Briardale Elementary principal. Some unknowns would be other foundation members, the Briardale Elementary staff, which would include that site curriculum committee that is involved in curriculum decisions, parents and community members, and then other potential community stakeholders. The place we know is Briardale Elementary, and it serves as a community meeting center. It's in the middle of town, so we can assume that it's a pretty well-maintained facility with a pretty good reputation. It was mentioned that it is within a diverse community. However, we don't know the exact location or demographics of the area, and we're not real sure if it's rural versus urban, but the size of the school kind of leans more towards urban or suburban, depending on the state you're in, I guess. The program, what we know about it is it's a K-5 public school, and that Briardale Elementary's basic skill curriculum is funded through the district, but that the foundation funds the supplementary curriculum, including art, music, and foreign language, and they're wanting to fund, in addition to those, a new innovative program. It's not specific what that is. That's an unknown. And then the basic skill curriculum is also, the specific curriculum is unknown as well. When we look into reviewing and prioritizing the information, could the situation be damaging to stakeholders or the community? Certainly it can. The situation damages the reputation of individuals and organizations, and the impact on the funds raised impact the school, its staff, and its students. So there are several people and potential stakeholders who are damaged in this situation. The individuals or groups that have an important stake in the outcome, obviously, are the foundation. Due to this situation, they have an indelible mark placed on them. The elementary school, including the teachers and students, because they may have lost some funds for their supplemental programming, and that is a big loss. And then the community at large may have lost some trust both with the elementary and the foundation, as well as maybe the overall district for having some interactions with such a situation. Have all the relevant stakeholders been consulted? I don't believe so. There wasn't any information that indicated that the superintendent or the school board were consulted, and it didn't really talk about any interaction between the foundation and the school site curriculum committee regarding the fundraising event, to make sure that everybody was on board with that before it went down the rabbit hole. Can I learn more about the situation? Certainly. I can always learn more about something before making a decision, but some things that I would like to know would be, what are the district policies regarding fundraising? Does the foundation implement protocols for oversight, or was this just kind of a shoot from the hip from the get-go? Is there turnover from year to year with new presidents on what those protocols look like? Did Mr. Santos, me, and Mr. Bailey, the foundation president, discuss the need for a raffle license potentially? Were others aware of the competition between Mr. Bailey and Mr. Morley, his friend from a neighboring school who was also in that same fraternity raising funds, which has some potential ethical implications, and could have been the potential impact on the raffle. There was a community tipster, and maybe that person knows Mr. Morley or is Mr. Morley. But overall, do I have enough information to make a decision? I don't really have a choice. All of the things have already been put in motion, so a decision must be made. Looking at what those options might be, my first option would be just let the chips fall. Do nothing, take no responsibility. This was not the school fundraiser, it was the foundation fundraiser, so I could take a completely hands-off approach. Another option would be to take responsibility. So as the building administrator, I could take some responsibility for the foundation president's fundraising debacle, because it does impact my school and the programs that are held within my building. A third option would be just to do some damage control, taking responsibility for any negligence on my part in failing to warn Mr. Bailey about the need for that raffle license. I could seek out some other fundraising opportunities in order to fund the current programs, or I could also contact the state to determine if a license can be purchased after the fact due to raising more funds than anticipated. So in Kansas, if you're raising $25,000 or less, a license isn't needed, and this Kansas Department of Revenue website indicated that if you accidentally raise more funds, to contact the Kansas Department of Revenue on a case-by-case basis. So that might be an option as well. The pros and cons of option one. Pros would be a separation of foundation from school to limit the impact on the school's reputation. A con would be that the implication that I failed as a principal to fulfill my responsibilities regarding fundraising and that oversight piece. Option two pros would be demonstrating responsibility to funds for programming. These are funds raised for programming within my building, and I should be responsible for it in some capacity. The cons would be that I might appear complicit in the illegal activity that I was not involved in. Option three pros, integrity might be maintained by taking responsibility for my actions or my failures. Contacting the state about obtaining an appropriate raffle license could potentially keep those funds that were raised rather than losing them and having to reimburse them. And seeking other fundraising opportunities to fund the current programs would be proactive, looking at viable options to continue funding programs rather than suffering a loss. The cons might be that I might also still appear complicit in the illegal activity because I'm taking some responsibility for that. Overall, the option that I choose is option 3, damage control. I choose this because it offers the most promise, seeking to right the wrongs of Mr. Barely and what may have come from my negligence in failing to warn him of the implications of raffle fundraising. Additionally, this option seeks to work with the foundation and possible other sources to secure funds for the current programs so that the school community is least impacted by the budget debacle. So looking at implementing my plan, the first step in my plan is to talk with stakeholders. This includes Mr. Barely and the rest of the members of the foundation, as well as the superintendent and school board, the school site curriculum committee, and all other individuals and groups that are impacted by the raffle for cash budget debacle. When I meet with Mr. Barely, it will be important to remain calm and non-accusatory. I don't know if this was an oversight on his part or if he truly knew what he was getting into and the potential legal implications of that. If he is to remain the president of the foundation, it's going to be necessary to continue to work with him for the benefit of Briardale School and the community at large. And it will be necessary to establish a relationship with all of the stakeholders that's based on integrity and respect in order to move forward into the following steps, which are, I mentioned step 1. Step 2 would be, let's see what can be salvaged. Can I go ahead and obtain a license after the fact? What other opportunities are there for fundraising? Step 3 would be looking to implement preventative measures. Moving forward, reviewing the district fundraising policy, implementing procedures for checks and balances between the fundraising efforts of the foundation and the school and how those things are managed, working closely with the foundation to establish a protocol and oversight regardless of the president. So we want to make sure that the foundation has a firm foundation so that when the president turns over, all isn't lost or changed. And then looking forward in step 4, should supplemental curriculum be funded solely by fundraisers? Or should we look to see if there are other funding sources that the school could access for those supplemental programs without fundraising? I mean, we're talking about curriculum for students, so perhaps relying solely on fundraising for that each year, there could be a better avenue. Also, I mentioned in there that maybe we have access to some grant opportunities in addition to fundraising, just making sure that we're looking at all avenues. And finally, I have a few final thoughts. So as a future school leader, I will have some fiscal responsibilities that shall not be taken lightly. As a leader of the school, it's necessary that I'm aware of policies, laws, and regulations, and I uphold those in all instances. It's necessary that all funds raised are in concert with the school and district goals and have a specified purpose. And it's important to keep in mind that even when an outside organization is raising the funds and granting those back to the school, that the implications of misconduct can have lasting impact on the school and its community. So staying on the right side of the law is paramount. And here are my references. Thanks for watching. Have a great school year.